Look at that, 3 kills. Is this guy trying to kill me?
I bought a ASUS Ally Z1 Extreme Edition right as the Steam Deck just announced their new OLED, and that's probably all the titles of videos currently out in the market. But I'm still good with my decision, because just like the Steam Deck that's lowering their prices, so is the ASUS for Black Friday. And I still think, here's the new OLED Steam Deck, but remember, the Ally is a better performer. You're getting more performance out of the Ally. But that new, I'm not going to discount it, that battery life, that OLED, the ease of use on that Steam Deck, and then the huge community behind it. I'm not here to say one is necessarily way better than the other, but I do defend my purchase, and I'm not going to be returning my ASUS Ally because I'm really digging it. And starting with that, you could just play anything on it. Nintendo Switch games, AAA titles, Fortnite, you name it, you could play it. So gaming is the game, and these things game. It's so nice. If anything, can we all just agree that we're living in an era of just this handheld revolution? And here's the thing. Steam Deck and the Ally are not the only, game in town. Sony's probably going to be entering this whole division soon. You got Lenovo in here, and then you have other manufacturers as well. And so, it's going to be interesting. And so in this video, let's start with talking about gaming. Let's tell you about how I feel about the Ally, how I'm using it, and then I'm going to go ahead and summarize my final thoughts. But if you notice, I posted the prices earlier in the video, so please note that I think for the price, the ASUS Ally just reduced down for Black Friday $100. So rather than $700, you can get $600, and then for the lower performing one, it's down to $500. But please don't get that one. It's a potato compared to the Z1 Extreme. As you see here, this thing just games, and it games hard, and I had a hard time putting it down. So if anything else, you will love its gaming potential. But let's go ahead and jump into it and see the pros and cons.
All right, so I just want to talk a little bit about the form factor. Is beautiful. It's light, it's slim. I feel like these are gonna protect the screen. You can always put a screen protector on here as well. Seems very well built. You got the dual stereo speakers, lots of I/O at the top. You got that micro SD card so you can expand it. A lot of people are unscrewing the back here and adding your own hard drive. The fans are not very loud. They definitely spin up. And then as far as plugging it in, you will get better performance plugging in versus not. You also have the headphone jack. You have the fingerprint reader here on the start button. And what everybody says is true, that Windows 11 is like a love-hate relationship. I love it because I can play all my favorite games. I could sideload things. I could, you name it, you could do it on a Windows computer, right? You can turn off the firewall. You can install all kinds of emulators. But the Steam Deck is easier, and it's easier that everything is more optimized more easily. So I feel like this has a lot of pros for an advanced user, but there's dumb stuff like that, like, grabbing stuff and like dragging stuff. It's not that easy to do. You get used to it after a while, but at first it was very strange. Area here, a couple things. Number one is just go here to check for updates. There's updates that you need to install. I had to update the BIOS. I had to update the graphics card drivers, and then a couple other things. And that definitely helped a few things. You got the RGB lights. You could turn those off. I love that it has the micro SD card holder right there. I have a 1 terabyte drive in there. I have some cool builds I've been playing around with. I really like the form factor. I think it feels great in the hand. I've noticed, like, if you have smaller hands, it's harder to reach certain areas, but I think you're gonna find that with most of these handhelds, especially the Steam Deck they're very similar as far as, hand sizes there. But what I did want to show you was this little command center over here. You can easily change things. I love this button right here. It could change between desktop mode and gamepad mode, or auto mode. So when I'm playing emulators, I want to be on gamepad mode, right? But if I'm surfing the internet or on YouTube, it switches to desktop mode. Auto doesn't work with emulators, I've found, but for the most part, for most AAA games, things like that, Fortnite, whatever you're playing, Call of Duty, it'll work just fine. If you ever need like an on-screen keyboard just not popping up like a cell phone, you can just click that button there and get a keyboard to pop up. And then there's some other shortcuts here like FPS limiter. And usually there's a button right here. I don't think it's on right now, but it lets you switch between the different wattages. Right now I'm plugged in, so I'm at performance mode. You get full 30 watt performance. You can see once I pull it out, it says I'm on battery, and I switch to performance, not turbo. So, but when I click this in, you should say turbo on the screen. So on PhD, turbo. Now there, my battery. I wanted to show you this. You get my ASUS. This is their little software, and I have the battery care mode enabled. Enable battery care mode to limit battery charging to 80% of full capacity, which will improve the lifespan of the battery. Really cool. On top of that, they still have the turbo charging as well, or the supercharging, where this thing could go like in 30 minutes, it like charges like almost half of it. So it's got some pretty cool little bells and whistles like that. The screen is gorgeous. The ergonomics are good. The I/O, the inputs and outputs are great. It has a little fingerprint reader built into the power button there. And overall, I'm really digging it. I love the command center. I like the controls. You know, overall, it's great. Where people complain is, you know, it has this little armory crate thing. The best thing you can say about this is that it works. You know, it's not the best, it's not the worst. So just like the Steam Deck, you can run Steam client. You know, you also have, you know, the Xbox, the Pass, Epic Games. You can install the Epic Game Launcher. No matter where, you know, you're doing your games, you could do it. You can see here, I've just installed a few games: Fortnite, Counter-Strike, Fall Guys, Left 4 Dead 2. And I've got a ton of emulators on here. I have a huge amount of emulators on my Anyways, this is the emulation I've been running. You could play all your different consoles: Atari, Wii U, right? So you could just load up a game, you know, Super Nintendo, 2020 baseball. Volume controls are good. You can switch between the D-pad or the analog sticks depending on what you prefer, especially on like retro gaming. Really enjoy the back buttons there. I haven't used the little shortcut buttons on the back, the M1, M2 buttons. And then as far as fan noise, it can definitely spin up, but it's not too crazy. Now, as far as the screen, this has a 120 hertz variable refresh rate screen, 1080p, right? And so, you know, it looks great, and I would prefer lower res, like 1080p, higher frame rate, than a 4K low frame rate, because this is for gaming, and you know, it looks great. Now, so it does have kind of a bezel. You know, it does have a bezel quite a bit all the way around the whole screen. I bet the next version they're going to use the whole entire thing.
So here's where it gets interesting. Here's kind of my summary. I really think the ASUS is, if you want just pure performance and a beautiful screen, you can't go wrong. Even with the new OLED Steam Deck, you're not getting much increase as far as performance goes. The RAM's a little faster. Now the screen, you know, now we have a competitor on the screen. Also, the Steam Deck just works better with low power. It has better battery life. But I'm really curious to see how those battery tests do now that they've upped the refresh rate to 90 hertz. You know, this thing right here that we're looking at right now has that 120 hertz screen, so you can always reduce that down to 60 hertz and get better battery life. But yeah, when this thing is really hauling, you really do need to have it plugged in on that battery power working. But it is a beast of performance. You know, the speakers are great, the controls are great. And now the pricing, in my opinion, I think they're very comparable in price, especially as this Ally goes on sale for $100 less. Because while the Steam Deck has that cheaper option, you're not getting the nice screen, right? So yes, it's cheaper, but you're getting an LCD screen, not getting an OLED. When you jump into the OLED screen, now you're in the price point of the ASUS. So really, at that point, that's why I would say that if you just want the cheapest handheld out there, the Steam Deck wins. But if you want like the good, you know, performing one and the nice screen, you're going to be paying very similar prices to the ASUS. And also note on pricing that, like the one I actually found an open box ASUS Ally at Best Buy for it was $520 in excellent condition. So that was a deal to me. The other thing the Steam Deck has going for it that I'm not, and really these are big question marks, is, will the Steam Deck keep, supporting the models that they're making prior to? Will they send out upgrade kits? And same thing with ASUS Ally. But ASUS is known to just want to sell devices. They don't necessarily want to support them forever. So if I was to guess, the Steam Deck might have a more larger legacy behind it. Maybe the product lifespan might be slightly larger. But I don't know about you. I love this device. I don't know why I would get anything newer in the next couple of years. It'd have to be a pretty compelling offering. But, this one is the more, I would say, I hate saying this analogy, but it's like iPhone versus Android. The Android, although it's not as clean, it can be very frustrating. You have so much more capability, so much more potential, right? Where the Apple device, in this case Steam Deck, is a much more, it's a kind of a, you got their own operating system, it's Linux, everything's really easy to do out of the box, but you kind of got to stay in their ecosystem there. If you get out of it, it can get a little choppy. So for those reasons, I think it's kind of like if you're really new to this, you want plug and play, Steam Deck. But if you want higher performance, and the ability to kind of sideload all this other stuff and customize it, I really like what ASUS is doing here. But so that's what I think. If I had to do this all over again, I could only pick one, either the Steam Deck OLED or the ASUS. I would probably do the ASUS just because I like performance. But I have to say, at the end of the day, it depends how you're using it. I don't travel that much. If I was traveling more, if I was commuting to work and I wanted this to commute with me, I think that's a different conversation than gaming around the house, things like that, availability to power. And don't forget, a lot of these things have auxiliary power packs and things like that you can add to them, which kind of levels the playing fields in a lot of ways. Anyways, that's what I think. Let me know what y'all think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.